Well, good morning, Nurture Your Soulies. We have a pretty awesome situation today. We'll call it a situation. We're starting a new series, which is Where Did You Find Your Enlightenment? We promoted that we would be doing this, and then we've had a few delays, and we'll talk about that. But today I'm honored to have with me a very special guest, a dear, dear friend that I've known for what, Lori, 14 years now?
Please. Yeah.
Okay, so Lori Tipitaw is my guest today. Lori has had several profound experiences in her life. She'll share that. Today is not about me talking, it's about me interviewing Lori. So you'll hear my voice. You may see me pop on once in a while, but this is really exploring. Every person has some kind of awakening experience, something that makes us start to ask those bigger life questions. Why am I here? And I wanted to get with Lori first. So here we are, Lori. What do you think about this?
It's so exciting to me. I mean, just the fact that it's the first time I've been interviewed and knowing you all these years and how you've helped me just start reaching out to you. How many years? From your YouTube way back when you first started.
Yeah, it's
It's
been
just,
quite a journey together. We've been through a lot together and we've supported each other through some really interesting times in our lives. So let's dive in.
okay.
So I want to have you take a little moment to reflect because I think all of us have these magical moments when we're a small child that make us start to ask these bigger life questions. But I don't want to plant seeds for you. I want to know what that was for you. So maybe take us back to one of your earliest moments where you remember that kind of going on for yourself.
When I was little, I was very happy child. Very, I mean, in the moment, just enjoying everything. And then, of course, mom and dad, we start getting the message that we're not doing the right things. And there was something that kept that happiness stored here. Like it wasn't taken away. I remember my girlfriend saying to me in my 20s, she goes, "You're the happiest person I know." But it was labeled naive to
Mm,
my mom. So that thought of naive was a negative, it kept me small
mm,
because I believed it. I innocently, how else do we know
right.
until we're going through? So I followed that trajectory with holding that limiting belief inside, and I just did what was supposed to be. Life, you get the boyfriend in high school, and you go for the career, and then you get married, and you have the house, and you have the kids. Then is when the thoughts were like, wait a minute, am I living my life?
Wow. Now,
Mm.
you mentioned this dynamic with mom.
Mm.
I'd love to know what was dad's participation when he saw this dynamic between the two of you? What was that like?
My dad was an alcoholic. He wasn't very present. When I was very little, he was present. And we did things together. We did a lot of sporty things together. He didn't have boys. So I picked up, we went to play tennis together. We did threw the ball playing. Oh my God. I have such great memories when I was young about my dad. And then he got into drinking heavily. Ooh, yeah. So I didn't really have a close relationship as I got older because he wasn't home. He was working all the time.
So that
So
created whatever dynamic you had going in the house between you and mom, which obviously sounds like it planted a seed for you. So maybe take us along where that seed continued on the journey and how you saw it shift and create its
Okay.
own little story about Lori.
Okay. So following the trajectory of the perfect daughter, doing the right things, um, when I was in my late 20s, actually, I found a friend of mine dead in his bed. I was the one that had to go. I found him in, yeah. So that started, that I was 28 and he was too. He was a very close friend of Peter's, my husband and I. And it just started me thinking a lot of different things. Was I living my life? And actually, or was I doing what I was supposed to do? So shortly after that, I a different man came into my life. And at that time, the boys were old enough, they were just starting to go to school. So I had some time to myself. And this man, I was feeling the excitement. And I'm like, is this what love is? Is because I felt that newness of a relationship, which a lot of us think that that's what love is. That's why we keep repeating. So I, Peter and I had been together. We've been together since I was 14. So I just couldn't, it just was so hard to think of me not, but there were thoughts of me leaving the relationship. The boys were 10 and 6. I was going to leave my boys. That's how much power this, when it seems like something is better out there. So my boss saw what was going on at work, the flirtation, all this. He said, I feel Peter's pain. Talk about divine intervention right there. I
Yes.
remember listening to songs, and the songs were saying things like, why do you have to leave in order to feel what, the thought of leaving him was flippant, not even, no depth. It was just like, I'm going to leave to something better. Not, no introspection. Then I started going within, started questioning what the hell is this? What is happening here? I'm ready to throw away my whole life for somebody I don't even really know. I was just feeling butterflies because it was something new. And I was like, that's, that can't be love. He really doesn't know me, and I don't know me. So Howard, my boss, who said, I feel Peter's pain, got me to go talk to my parents and ask them why I didn't feel loved growing up.
Wow.
Yeah. So that trajectory of being the perfect daughter, doing the perfect things, and went
Holy.
because my dad ended up coming in the room because my mom basically sat in the chair and told me how she was brought up. Oh my God, you can't pass on something that you never felt yourself. And now I see so much, and I see so much beyond that now. But when dad walked in, I don't even know what part he listened to, but he got up, he cracked open a beer, and I was like, I don't want to deal inside. I'm like, I don't want to deal with you yet. I can't deal with it. I just want to. But he walked over to me after he had sat down. Well, I don't know what he heard, but he came and said, I'm sorry. I love you for the first time ever. And he never said it again either, but it didn't matter because oh my God. Anyway, so the next day, but the understanding from mom and the love and acceptance from my father for the first time sent me into orbit. That was my first spiritual awakening. I was like flying. I was high on life. Love was exuding out of me.
I think what's fascinating, not to cut you off, but I want to interject here for a minute because I'm sure other people listening to this are thinking the same thing I am. You said you were 28 at this point, right? So most of us don't have that kind of relationship with our parents at 28. So even though you had this disconnect, for lack of better words, with mom and dad being so preoccupied, the fact that this moment was a precursor for your spiritual awakening. And it was with two of the people who felt the most disconnected from you that helped you realign your way. I mean, say something about that from a spiritual perspective. Can you now, with hindsight, start to see these serendipities and how they kept you on this course of flow?
It's the actual, just thinking about it brings tears of love and gratitude for both of them. Because before it was thoughts of, I'm never, I'm never going to be approved of by either one of them because of critical, which is, I'm not blaming them one bit. It's just what they were living. And it just changed so much inside of me, feeling love for the real love for myself within, having nothing to do with anything out there. Just
Mm,
coming out of me was just people were at work were asking, what the hell is Tibetot on?
I love that.
And I said, I'm high on life. It was had I was no drugs, no nothing. It's our true nature is joy and happiness and love. And I just was showering it all over. It's almost like Jesus, people when they find Jesus, that basically they're finding themselves. And then using Jesus as a catalyst, but literally you're finding who you are. And
Right.
we're not thoughts. But I didn't understand that at the time. I didn't understand because what comes up come back down. It was a month of synchronicities and love and joy and happiness and forgiveness and clarity when things would come into, because, negative looks like negative things start happening, come into your, and there's that contraction. I just could see through it all. It was beautiful. So after that went away and the identification with this body and mind came back, that's when the deep dive sadness, oh, because I knew what it could be. So that sent me on the journey of trying to discover what the hell happened. What was it? What I know there's a different way to live, and I want that back. And I know so many spiritual people that's the same thing. They have the awakening and they want it back. And then I ran into non-duality and then near-death experience. Every near-death experience person captures when they've crossed over exactly what I lived for a month. And that's what made me come to you. You were so approachable. So I could resonate so much with what you had to say. And I read everything. Raymond Moody and Atwater, her book is like this thick. And I read it in a weekend.
You were ready. You were
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
ready. And I love how organic, wholesome, natural, those are three of my favorite words when I'm talking to people about this because especially for users who are watching this and they're really looking for that hook or that invitation, because I like to compare what you just called that moment that just made you so excited. I call it chasing the dragon. It's very
Mm.
similar to somebody who apparently tries a major drug like heroin or something the first time, and then they're not after the new high, they're trying to recreate that initial high.
Exactly.
So maybe tell us a little bit more about how that carried out now that you've had a taste of it. You've started to read, and search and seek and do all of those things that we all do in our spiritual exploration. What did you start to uncover? Where did that take you?
Well, when I came into non-duality, I started realizing that it's not, those thoughts are not me. That's when I was like, oh, okay, I'm not, I don't have to identify with those thoughts. That's just a program going on in my head. That's not who I am. That love is what I am. So it's literally been a roller coaster of highs and lows, which can be labeled bipolar. My sister labeled me bipolar, so I saw that that was a a resistance. There was resistance there, and anything you resist persists. It just stays. So I was so probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now, I finally let that one go because we have all these identities that have to, they're a cage. They keep the bird in the cage, hurting. And it doesn't have to be.
No.
So after, well, there was just did, did things that are happening or seem to be happening in non-duality. We realize nothing's really happening. It's just there's only now. The past and the future are literally thoughts. They're not real. It's not. So that's why they call this the dream of separation, which we've never been separate. We only believe we've been separated from life, God, whatever, love. Yeah. And we're not. And when we're not, we feel it. It feels inside. So the breathing brings us back to now. That's what I'm helping people with now is breathing.
I love that. I love that
Mm,
for you. And I love
minute.
that for them.
Yes, me too. Me too. Because
We find what we need, right? We find exactly what and whom and what experience we need because life just brings it right to us.
exactly. And if we're resisting it, like we're having people come to stay here for a week starting today. And whenever something's happening, like my ex daughter-in-law, whatever, she's had a tough life herself. And when she came to stay with us for a month, I knew when she asked, it was I know that everything that's put here, as long as I say yes, it's going to challenge my who I think I am, and it's going to make me break through it. Another layer of identification, not just facing it head on, mm, instead of
Delicious.
fighting.
Delicious. And that's the thing. You know, you pointed to something that I want to have you elaborate a little bit on. So like most, you had this profound moment at 28 that seemed to carry you through, and you're doing the ebbs and the flows. At the stage you're a wife, you're a mother, life is going on normally, but you're not who you were pre that riding the dragon. So how did you start to translate that into your daily life so that you didn't feel, or maybe you did feel, I don't want to put in your mouth words, but empty, or like, what's the purpose of me being here? Because I hear a lot of people when they have that moment and then it seems to slip away, they go into that, then what's the purpose if I see through the illusion?
when after that, the first dip, after the high, and then the first dip, um, I remember crying. I mean, waking up in the night, just bawling, wanting it back so bad. And Peter would hold me all night. I mean, through all of that, I almost blew that up. The gratitude, literally, gratitude and love, I found they're the same vibration. They feel good in the body. Anytime you're grateful, when you are in any kind of thought, what lately, I'm calling it an ego storm. You know how yeah, ego storm is just telling you shit about yourself, which isn't true. When you feel it in your body, just take that breath and come back to gratitude and love right here. Mm.
And were your husband and your kids or outsiders like I know they were probably thinking at points she's lost it or whatever, but were they also saying, but she's also getting more sincere and more real? And like there's this weird dichotomy of who she's become, which version of her should we trust? Was that going on?
Yeah, definitely, definitely, especially with well, it's my perception of my mom and my sister and Peter and the closest ones to me. The kids were because I stopped being demanding that they be a certain way. That
Right.
stopped. So, because before I was doing just what my mom did, trying to make them perfect citizens, whatever. It was up to me to, and then I realized that if I take credit for their being upstanding citizens, if they aren't, then I'm going to have to take the blame for that. Wait a minute, that can't be. It just didn't resonate. So, the closest ones to me, I literally, since mom's passing 3 weeks ago today, I realized that I'm using them to, I'm projecting the negativity of me doing something wrong. I've used, now that mom's gone, I'm not using her anymore. And I can come from pure love it's always been that way. She sees that now. I know she sees that now. But there was friction.
Mm.
Same with dad. Not as much because dad in the end, after that first awakening with dad, it was full acceptance of him and it had nothing to do with me. There was no projection anymore. He
Right.
didn't, yeah. I didn't need his approval. With mom, I still needed her approval. And I'm still seeing that my sister and my husband, I'm still using them. But this is literally recent. This morning, I'm putting on my mother's underwear. We bought them last year when my dad was passing. And she really didn't like them. They weren't the right thing or whatever. And so I got them when she passed 3 weeks ago. I took them. And as I'm talking to her now, it's so much more clear. It's coming from love. There's no resistance anymore. And I realized this morning that it was mine. It was my resistance, projecting all that negative onto her, hurting myself, using her body to hurt me. I think that's the deepest revelation that's happened recently.
Wow. And we're getting that fresh. We were going to do this interview a couple weeks ago, you guys, and this is when Lori's mom started to pass, and we had to push
We
this
didn't even
out.
know. When we were first going to do this, there was no thought that my mother was going to be gone. When we, and this, it's all perfect. I always say, not a grain of sand is out of place. It's the when you're not resisting, you see the synchronicities, the perfection in this. And how arrogant of me to think that God, life, love does it wrong.
Or manipulates it,
or manipulates it, right?
right? Because then we can use it as an excuse for where we are
Right. Yep.
to stay in that victim story.
The
So tell
victim.
us about some of your victim stories. I want to hear, because
Yeah.
again, I think, you know, they're probably dabbled throughout just like mine. And I'm sure you find some of them hysterical now. So maybe share some of those victim stories with us now.
Victim of my mother trying to make me the perfect. sh- How dare she? She tried to make me, oh, and now I just that thought. But she's not, she sees clearly now. She's there. Victim. Um, okay. Oh, this is the big one. Okay, so my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is very gruff, very what seems like arrogance. And about 5 years ago, I came down to stay with them because we were buying this place. And I saw him. I was afraid of him my whole life. There were things that happened that he writes out letters, 5-page letters about how I'm doing life wrong in his eyes. But that was for me, not to me. That I was a victim of him
Right.
for a long part of my life. But when I was here and I saw him on the couch, he was taking a nap during the day. And I saw him as a little boy. And it changed our relationship. Okay, I got scammed in 2021 for $30,000. I believed I was helping somebody. As the money was going, Peter was, I mean, because I've taken care of the money, the whole our money, all of our, I had the checkbook, I did the bills, I always said, can you take it over? It just stresses me out. He didn't want anything to do with it. Well, he started taking things away from me. I'm so glad he did. I had no way to get any money at this point. So I went to my brother-in-law and he was ready to hand it over without a question asked. Oh, mm. When I used to resist, fight, who I just couldn't own the arrogance that's in me. I see that now. There's
Well,
so much arrogance here sometimes.
well, yeah, we all have to go through seeing it, but it takes sometimes another person's eyes to help us navigate seeing that expression.
And then my sister came and said, absolutely not. You're not giving her a penny. And I was, so that was like, there was the, how dare she? But there she goes again. But I thanked her. She was after Peter. When I found out I was being scammed, 3 months of it, I went directly to them and said, especially to her, I hugged her and I said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And she was just grateful that I was finally out of it because some people go through that for years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. August 15th, boom. And I never, still you get the ones on Facebook, but I see through it. But boy, after that, once, oh, the shame, the guilt, the blaming myself. I never blamed Frank. It was all blaming here, had to be felt. All of it. It was excruciating
So
to
what do
feel.
you think? What do you think if you were to navigate back to that spot? What do you think drove you towards the invitation in that version of Lori versus this version now? What do you
I,
think?
I think it had to do with money. I think it had to do and arrogance too, thinking I knew because I was out there telling everybody what I believed, and the way I believe is exactly what you have to believe. Jeez. Right? Total arrogance. And I had to sit here and feel all of it and
And that
breathe.
egg on the face
Oh,
that we've all
yep.
experienced,
It's a gift.
such a gift.
Such a
And
gift.
how we avoid it. And
Oh,
I know you say it and I say it. You can't move through this without moving through this.
that
And the healing is in the wound.
is totally in the. I don't regret any of it. As much as it hurt to face, it had to be. I'm grateful for it. All of it.
Did anyone turn on you that never came back?
Oh, that's another thing. I realized during that down, very deep hating myself, I saw that whenever a vision of somebody would come by, an identity, my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, certain my friends, I realized I believed I'm not worthy of their love. I believed that. And I had people reaching out to me just saying, Lori, you're people that are on my outer, friends, but on the outer saying, you're being scammed. And I would not hear it. I would not hear it. I thought I was helping somebody. And sitting here seeing not deserving their love, not worthy, it's basically it's that's who I am. The love that I'm projecting that I don't deserve from them is what I am. That love
Say
is,
more about that. Say more, stay there because it's so beautiful. The expression on your face, I feel everything you're saying, but I am that love. Say more about that.
that love, that divineness. I've never said that before. Is here. It's not here. The thoughts are what takes it away when you believe all the stuff saying, I'm not good enough, something's wrong with me, something bad's going to happen if I don't control this. We're not in control. When you let go of it, that love, it can't be taken away even when a parent or somebody close to you dies. It's still right here. When I think of mom and dad, just feel that love. My mind can't project negativity on them or me anymore because they're free. I'm free, free to love unconditionally. Their thoughts that, okay, so when mom and dad were, last year when dad was dying, we'd go to the hospital every day, hospital or the nursing home, wherever he was. And the doctors or nurses would say, they recognize me, the daughter, and mom, the wife. And she'd be quick to say, nope, I'm not his wife. And I would interject, they still love each other, but they just can't live together because they were divorced, but they did everything together still. But this got in the way. I
Yeah.
don't, you do this. That just clouds the love that we are.
So I want to tie this back to why we're even doing this. Where did you find your enlightenment? What does that word mean to you? And take a moment on it because I know it's the finger pointing to the moon and it's hard to talk about. But if you were having someone come across this video that maybe isn't part of the non dualistic community, that this is the first time they've come across anybody speaking in this way, and you were asked, what is enlightenment, Lori? How would you answer that today?
Wow. I just got a vision of a light right here. enlightened, en light, in light. That light is what we are. Babies, kids, they don't have the identities. They are pure light and love. That's what it's about, going back to getting out of those identities and back to the love and light that we already are and we've always been.
So you seem to have gotten to a good space with this in this part of your life. And you've talked about navigating waves and all of the ins and outs of duality that we experience. What does today look like for you in navigating this stuff? What do you see now that maybe 5 years ago that version of Lori wouldn't have seen?
Seeing the light in everybody reflected back. You know, these thoughts can still come up of, I don't like, they shouldn't, but not even given the time of day. Realizing every single person is this light. And when we breathe, just like I just did, that's your freedom, bringing it right back to now. That's all there is now. The rest is story, projecting into a future that's not real. You'll never be in the future. And the past is gone. It's literally story. Doesn't have to mean a thing.
Right.
Mm. So
And
the word,
I've gotten to watch you,
mm,
and you've gotten to watch me. And
just
we,
gonna
yeah, we've gotten to see this evolution appearing in front of us. But I think what I think we both realize is even that evolution is part of the story.
totally no
Did you
regret.
ever evolve, or did my story of you evolve?
Mm, right? Because our stories of others is how, if somebody has a beautiful story about me, like my daughter-in-law, well, my granddaughter's mom, she has a tough, she's doing it all on her own. She's very bitter from her mom, was very bitter, very, yeah. So she carries the victim story a lot. But when she thinks of Peter and I, we've always been her soft place to fall, even though it isn't supported by anybody else. Why, when she says, I love you, Lori, when she's feeling her best, it's not about her loving me at all. It's that she's feeling love within. Has nothing to do with me. She has a story about me that's beautiful, and I love that for her. Mm,
So you hit on something that I love to talk about. So I want to hear your version of it. See if I can do this justice so that you can translate it in your own verbiage. I tell people that this feels selfish sometimes because when I give now, whether it's a material item or a moment of my time or a piece of my heart or a thought of loving them in that moment, I can feel immediately the love reverberating back to me. But I don't do it. I don't manipulate it to get that. But it's a byproduct of that.
byproduct. Oh,
So I can say honestly that there are times where, and I don't mean this because that word really has a negative connotation, which is why I want you to talk about it a little bit, but it can feel selfish at first because we feel like it's self serving.
mm,
But tell me what you think that is, what it really is.
When, when you get in touch with the love that you are, you don't want anything to sacrifice that. You don't want to let anything disturb it.
I love that.
Right? And when it does, that's when I need to look inside to see what I'm thinking and believing that is not true in that moment. Because it isn't them. I'm not going to blame them. If I blame the root is here. The root of the pain is here. And if I keep blaming and banishing people out of my life for hurting me, I'm not going to, there's just going to be a succession of them because the common denominator is right here. So the, the priority is the love is, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, okay, so people come up to me and say, I'm so sorry your mom just passed. And I'm like, you don't have to be sorry. And it may sound cold to the average person. How come she's not crying or what? I did have my tears when she passed. It was such a beautiful passing. That's another thing. I never heard of a beautiful passing, but the nurses and doctors were like, what a beautiful, because she faced it head on. I've got such a beautiful model to follow. She faced it head on. She would not die on Hannah's birthday, granddaughter, her great granddaughter first, which was the day after Valentine's Day. So she didn't have anything unplugged until midnight. She was in ICU and they let Angie and I stay in the room, sleep in the bed happened to be empty, and there was a chair that flattened out. I said, have you ever done this before? She goes, we're gonna have a sleepover. The nurse said that. I said, have you? She goes, it's the first time for everything. But if it was such a beautiful passing that or facing, they didn't have to pretend that she wasn't dying. They didn't have to with any of us. It was openly talked about. And it wasn't no fear. So right? What a beautiful model I have to follow. We don't talk about death as it's all hidden and feared. So many people fear death. There's nothing to fear with the birth and death. Body knows what to do. It knows what to do. It was we didn't even know she had passed. The nurses had to come in and tell us. It was
Love that. I love
did I
that.
your question?
You did, and you went even further, which I love because I get a visual of apologies. I get a visual of, oh gosh, you and mom having said all the things that needed to be said and being able to just be present with each other in that space without feeling like you needed to fill it with apologies or let's clean this up. And to me, that is the most beautiful way to watch someone transition, where you're literally just holding space for each other without
That's it,
all the needs for words to be there or apologies or forgivenesses or ideas that forgivenesses need to happen, all that.
right. Well, with dad, one exact week short of a year. Exact. I can't even. We didn't make it back. We had left him. And I said, because I said, Dad, we were all there. And then I said, Dad, would you go to sleep because he looks so tired. And I would, yeah. And he was a people pleaser, just like I was. And he wouldn't he wouldn't have said that. But so we all left. And when we didn't, they called us and said it's not going to be long. And he had crossed before we got back. And when I went in there, when I left him, he literally was pointing. He was pointing out the window. Like, and nobody, we didn't talk about that until a week later. My son and his wife and I, when they were taking me to the airport, is when we said, I said something about it, and they went, "We saw that too." They looked back in and saw him pointing. No, no. Anyway, so when mom and I got back, they said he was gone. I clearly saw that that body is not who he was. It was the vehicle he used. The love that he was definitely not in that body anymore. The aliveness, the essence wasn't in that body anymore. That was so profound for me. I took a picture of him and I have it. And my mom's like, don't take a picture of it. You know, that whole, she did not want, yeah. But mhm. And she wasn't even, she didn't think about that at all when she was passing, about what it looked like, or it
So
was
tell me,
beautiful.
because you've touched on it a little bit here, and I want to poke at it a little bit. Tell me about some of the magical, what we call outside of the five senses experiences that you've had. Maybe not just around these deaths, but other ones that again you went, oh my gosh, if I hadn't shifted to where I am now, I don't think I would have believed that.
Right, right. Well, I mean, when you come into an experience where it literally does feel magical when you're out of this and in here. It feels like everything is, the synchronicities are constant. It's like, oh, well, of course. Oh, well, of course. And the love is just coming out when you're connecting with another. Because I look in somebody's eye. When I'm talking with somebody, my left eye is looking into their right eye. When I was feeding dad at the end, he would lock on that eye. I could just feel that love, just that oneness that we are. That's not separate. I could feel it to the depths of my favorite thing was feeding him. I never thought I was going to feed my dad. He just had a stroke, so he couldn't get his hand. So it just made it easier for him because I just loved him so much.
I
I
love
still
I
do.
love that. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about you got into this whole experience of seeing through the illusion of a separate self. We call it non-duality. You found a few teachers, you followed a few NDEers, you started your own trek, and here we are, 2024, and Lori now is sharing,
She was.
is sharing, is getting in front of people and having non-church and doing all these things. Tell us about that. I want to hear all about how this is translated into your the work that you do in your daily life and what that looks like and how people can reach out to you if it's something they're interested in doing. Like, tell me about all that.
Well, I absolutely, okay, 9 o'clock Eastern time on Facebook Live, I do non-church, unchurch, whatever. It's basically sharing what has happened. Okay, that came through. Sharing the journey. And if it resonates, it resonates. And it seems to be building. It seems to be because all of us come from that love. We all know it. We all feel it in the words. That's why the near death experience community, you can feel when they've crossed over, they feel that unconditional love. It brings you right back to where we all come from. We all are, but we've started off that way until the conditioning comes on. Anyway, so that's what I like to share about and the interaction between the people. I've just started trying to connect Zoom with it, but the technology thing, you got it mastered. I, that
It takes
obviously
time. It takes time. It's taken me a long time to learn this. You'll get there and you're doing fabulous with it. And I'm gonna put in the description how people can connect with Lori on her social medias and those sorts of things. Um, I
my email. If somebody wants to email me, I've got Freedom with Lori.
okay, we'll put all that in the description so people can get in touch with you. I was trying to remember last night when I was thinking about us doing this. I was like, I know you messaged me. That was how we started the initial conversation. Like you
From
messaged,
YouTube. It was from YouTube.
was it from YouTube? You had seen my NDE and you'd messaged me, and that was how the journey started with us talking.
And then you told me about what was that online thing that was free to do?
Um,
Oh,
Liberation on,
Operation Unleashed. Yes. And Vince. Oh my God. I've had so many awesome teachers along the way just to keep me, because I didn't know what the hell happened for me. I don't like to say what happened to me because I'm not a victim. That's my big thing. I'm not a victim. Whenever I feel like a victim, I know I'm identified with all the thoughts that are not true. Byron Katie. We talked about Byron Katie back then too. Yeah. That went to her 9 day
oh,
school. Yeah. And I went to Jeff Foster's silent retreat that nobody believes I could be silent. My whole family's like, what? You did not. You were not silent. But that was divine too. Oh, there's so much. The way it was grateful for being silent. Life is making it so easy for us. It's our identity that makes it hard.
absolutely. So if you had one little nugget of advice that you could leave somebody with, again, maybe someone who's never followed this non-duality track and they've just stumbled on this video today, if there's one little bit of insight you could give them to have a kernel of hope today, what would it be?
It would be you are the love that you're looking for out there. You're never going to find it in the world. It's here, always been here. You got to be your own best friend.
Yeah. And if they're doing this alone and they don't have a beautiful Peter like you do, or they don't have children that support them, I have a lot of people who follow this channel that feel truly alone. What do you say to them?
The same thing. Being alone is the only reason you're feeling alone is because you're not loving who you are. That love, it purifies it. It purifies any negative. If you look at those thoughts and realize that they're not true. Any thought that's saying you're blah, 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 not you. It's not true. And your body's letting you know. So this is what I'm teaching now, the freedom process. It's breathing deep, coming back to the now, because whenever you're here, the ego storm, you bring that, you feel it in your body. It's letting you know that it's not true. Your body's your barometer. It's saying, yeah, this is not true. Don't believe this. But the breath takes you out of the thoughts, right back in where there's nothing but love.
That gooey, that gooey truth.
Mm. Gooey, I like that.
It's that when you first wake up and
Mm.
you just feel that sense of peace, like I just brought a crispy little slice of an apple back with me, of
Mm.
that peace.
before the identity comes on and then you feel the contraction.
Yeah.
I have to be because I'm not enough. And oh, yeah, all of that. Painful when it's believed.
All right. Tell me the funniest. Tell me the absolute funniest unraveling you've had for you, not for someone else. Something that you stumbled in and you thought you had it all figured out and it unraveled right in front of you and you went, "Oh my gosh."
Well, the scamming thing is the biggest one. I have to laugh. What the? I thought I had this.
Maybe take us through that a little bit. Tell people a little bit about that if you feel comfortable. Like what
I feel
happens there?
okay. So I well, was it was a guy on Facebook. He well, actually, a lot of people on Facebook were messaging me, and it turns out they were all scammers. I had no idea. I didn't know anything about scamming. I had no clue, but I was just accepting, accept. All of a sudden, I had all these people, so I just started accepting so they could get my message, so I could spread this word. Anyway, so one of them, I was at the pool, and I got this message from this guy, and he started talking to me, saying how he liked my videos or whatever, and he actually, I've got it all written. I've got a book written, and I have not. My girlfriend said, Scammed into Enlightenment is a great name for it.
I love it.
Yeah, right. But I've just not done anything with it. It's on this Mac. Anyway, so he we became friends and I was talking to him like I talked to, when he was saying things, I'm saying, yeah, that's not who you are. You're not your thoughts and whatever. And it was playing into, it was becoming a friendship. Well, a couple of days later, he says, Lori, I have something to ask you. He said he was a doctor from Yemen, which I didn't even know Yemen. I didn't know anything. Anyway, and I have a box that I need to send to you for safekeeping because I don't trust the people here. And I went, okay, what do you want me to do with the box? What's in the box? He goes, $1 million. And I went, what? I can't, I don't even lock my, be responsible for that. And he goes, please, you've got to help me. I don't, and I really need your help. And he's forcing the help thing. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So he supposedly sends it to me, but it didn't ever come here.
Right.
So then that was the hook. Oh my God, such and such happened. I need more, I need money for this because my money's all with you. I said, it's not with me. I didn't, but if it was with you, he says, you're gonna get it. Anyway, 30. My Bitcoin was like, I put 1,000 in from a tip I got years ago. It was up to $8,000. He just needed a little bit. So I gave him my password. That's how trusting I totally, it's all gone. Uh, plus, uh, all gone. I know that's the number one thing of our identity is, oh, you lost money. Somebody took your money. Oh, your money. Money comes, money goes.
There you go.
Comes and goes. And I needed to see because I would, at the end of that, I thought, we're destitute. We're going to be destitute. We're going to be out on the street. All the thoughts of, I fucked up. Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
We're going to be out on the streets and I did a bad thing. And here we are. That was 2000. It'll be 3 years. It's going to be 3 years coming. The end of April will be when it started. And August 15th. Boom. Never to be, like the boyfriend thing when you keep hanging on and my friend of mine's going through that. And nope, it was cut off because he still kept trying. I still, you would have had some money, your money back if you'd have just believed me. The boxes, yeah, yeah, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So many times I saw through it, but went back. But after August 15th of 21, I'm not. going back to any little, because your mind's like, oh, maybe I could get the money back. Mm-mm. Nope. Lesson learned.
And you can see the gift in that lesson now.
Oh, totally. Humility, humble. Yes, it's changed so much about me, about the me, the identity, Lori.
Right. Well, I love this. I wanted to try and keep it at an hour, but I want to close with, where do we go from here?
Following my feet, just like Byron Katie, following my feet. Who knows? But I just know that I need to honor the love that's here. Love, that cliche, love conquers all. It does. It's not even about conquering, it's about holding it, honoring it as who I am.
Yeah. And who you are,
Arrogant.
beautiful, open, light, funny, uh, communicative, vulnerable, um, sweet, intimate, caring,
Hmm.
rugged. There's a depth about you that from the very beginning, one of the many things I love about you as your friend is you're very tenacious. If there's something that you want, and I reflect in that because I call myself a stubborn asshole in the best possible way. I love that part of myself,
Yeah.
the earnestness that keeps arising. And I saw that in you from the first time we started talking. There was just this, you were never out to get something from me. You
Mm.
were always interested in, I want to understand that so that I can take it and reflect on it in my own bubble. And that's what you've done. That's what I've watched you do, is become this beautiful butterfly who not only has begun to soar, but is helping others to feel that soaring. And to me, that is the true sign of enlightenment,
Mm.
is that when you reach a place of knowing there's nothing to get and yet you're still giving what you have.
Mm. Lisa Carnes said that to me too when I went to her retreat in Spain. She said, it's nice to be around you because you're not trying to get something from me. That's the first time. And you're the second one. Hmm. Thank
That
you.
to me is authenticity. So you live it, my love. You live it.
Thank you. Just like you. You're
That's why we're in each other's bubbles.
right. Mm.
Anything you want to close with for people who are watching?
I just hope they resonate with the love that they are and not believing what's going on in there.
Right.
Believe
I
those
think
thoughts
I
not
think
enough.
another thing to say from both of us is, don't compare yourself to anyone else. This is an
That's
individual journey. You've stumbled on this today. Maybe it's something you've never watched. Maybe both of us are brand new to your experience. There's no coincidence, though, that this video crossed your path. And
absolutely no coincidence.
yeah, it's not to get what we have, it's to recognize you are this love.
By feeling it. That's why anybody would, that's the reason anybody would actually entertain this, keeping going, listening to this because they resonate with it.
So, can
But
we close with a 1 minute silent meditation? And what I'd love to do is really focus on our eyes,
mm,
sharing with the audience. And if you can join us for a moment, it may not be an exact moment, but let's just take a moment and just reverberate love and healing in the space by sending it from our heart centers. I love you, Lori.
Love you.
Thanks for being on. And if
You
anyone's watching this and they'd love to do another one of these, or if you'd love to have Lori come on again, if you have questions for her that you'd like us to go deeper on,
loved
me too. All right. Much love. Till next time.
it.